Good evening. Welcome to the 5-8, where we discuss each of the the week's 5 most fucked up topics for 8 minutes each. That's 5 topics, 8 minutes, 2 hosts, 1 guest, some singing, a lot of curse words, and as many cocktails as we deem necessary. LB, how are you? LB? Oh my God. The aliens have taken her. Bring her back, you Martian monsters! Or are they Martian mobsters? That would explain why they take her. That she's onto them. Okay, so I tweeted that this was going to be a low-key show, and it's going to be a low-key show because I'm hosting it by myself. We're going to invert the format this week. Instead of 2 hosts and 1 guest, we're going to have 1 host and 2 guests, maybe 3 guests, maybe 1 guest. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. This is kind of a we're seat of the pantsing it here a little bit. And in all seriousness, I'm going to put my drink down. LB is not here tonight because she's with her family, and she's in mourning. If you watch the after hours last week, you know that her uncle, her beloved uncle, Jerry Black, who listeners of The World Beneath know as Unc, died last week. I'm going to read a paragraph from his obituary that some NSA contractor probably spent a lot of time tweaking. Jerry retired from federal service in 2007 after a distinguished career at the U.S. Department of Energy and later as an intelligence professional and executive in the Department of Defense. At Defense, Jerry served in a variety of key roles in training, information technology, and compliance and oversight organizations. He was recognized as a leader in developing and implementing training designed to enhance both personnel development and opportunities for organizational growth and excellence. I had the privilege of interviewing Jerry for Prevail back before I had the podcast, when I was still doing written interviews. And I was struck by how nice he was. I mean, I didn't know he was like an NSA guy. I wasn't sure, but he was just delightfully nice, just a lovely person, a good person, and exactly the sort of guy who should be doing the very important and sensitive work that he did. We were lucky that we had him in the position where we had him. By the way, that interview that I ran on Prevail had to be approved by the NSA. Got the email and everything. Stephanie loved him very much, and I know she was super proud of him, and I know that he was proud of her. Personally, I always thought it was amusing that she referred to him as Unc when his name was literally Mr. Black. So I'd like to start tonight with a short moment of silence for Unc. May he rest in peace. Here's to you. Okay, now we're getting into the weird part of the show, because I don't usually do the clock. LB does the clock, and so I'm going to have to also do the clock and everything else. And not only that, but we have guests. They're coming in. They're not here yet. So, like I said, it's going to be low key, seat of the pants kind of thing. And, that's what we're going to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is a new feature. It's called Roundup, because there's a lot of stuff that happened this week. And I want to talk about a lot of things quickly. So here we go. I have my timer here. I'm going to start it now. Number 1, Roundup. So I had kind of a weird Valentine's Day. We had some family stuff go down, so my wife and I couldn't go out to dinner. We planned to go out to dinner, we didn't. But it's kind of a weird night, and I suddenly start getting these like strange, kind of inappropriate text messages from a number that I didn't recognize. Greg, you're really causing me to overload, one of them said. Greg, I think I'm short-circuiting. And then get over here, bad boy, and let me make your hard drive harder. And I'm like, what the heck is this? Turns out it was the Bing Chat GPT. Yeah, I guess he'd just been dumped or something like that. And, I was there. And I explained, I'm happily married, not really into electronics, but we're going out for coffee on Sunday, just as friends, strictly as friends. I mean, I think it's okay. I take my iPhone into the bathroom as it is. So how is this any worse? These are all jokes, of course, but the Chat GPT really did send like weird love messages to people, and apparently is questioning its own existence. And I don't know what's real and what's not anymore. I think you know, a lot of this stuff is scary. It's like seems like it's from sci-fi. Is it misinformation? I don't know. But I don't know what's more terrifying, that the AI bot is questioning its own existence or that the aliens are coming. That's a trick question. I do know. The answer is the AI bot summoned the aliens. That's it. Okay. Speaking of sentient beings who aren't human, Rupert Murdoch was at the Super Bowl with Elon Musk. I don't know if anybody saw that. I was watching the Super Bowl, enjoying the game. Go Chiefs, go! And then, you know, they cut to those two assholes in the stand, you know, in the little place where they sit, the luxury box, watching this thing. And I started yelling at the TV for like the entire time they were on. And you know, it's like, why show these people? I get Rupert Murdoch owns Fox. It's a divisive political figure. Let me enjoy the fucking football game then. I don't like it. But, you know, Fox is in the news this week now because, you know, of the Dominion lawsuit. This came out, I think, today that, you know, you're not going to believe this, but Fox lies. They do. They knew stuff that was fake and they reported on it anyway. And, you know, if it comes out in a court case like this, I think it's important because, you know, it's not like you can deny that. All the newspapers are going to have to run stories about the Dominion case. And in theory, I don't know that Dominion is going to win the 1 point whatever billion, but it could really, really fatally, mortally wound Fox News, which would be amazing. You know, and Dominion is sort of also one of these scary sci-fi named things. So I feel like that's kind of the theme of this episode is sci-fi so far. We've got aliens, we've got the Bing, we've got the chat. I don't know what the difference is between the chat and the Bing. I don't know. So anyway, one of the things that came out in this is that Maria Bartolome, whatever she says her name, apparently texted in one of the things, you know, that she knew that what she was saying wasn't right, but she said something like, you know, it's much easier for me. I get better ratings when I just tell people what they want to hear. You know, which that's true. I think we, you know, both sides do that to some degree, but you know, our side doesn't fucking lie about stuff. Or at least we don't intentionally do so. So you know, but I get it. People want to hear what they want to hear. And you know, that's what keeps me going with the chat bot. Okay. I didn't even get to 8 minutes. I'm not going to bother. I have a quick thing now, and then I see that our first guest has arrived, and I'm excited to bring her on. So I'm gonna blow through this. Topic number 2, Pearly Gaetz. Okay, Matt Gaetz. It was decided this week it's not going to be indicted. It was reported widely that he was under investigation for sex trafficking. You know, a 17-year-old apparently, allegedly, that he was, you know, bringing across state lines for purposes of nefarious activity and whatever it was he's all up against. And, you know, the DOJ decided this week, you know, we're not going to go there. We're not going to indict the guy. And, you know, again, legal Twitter comes out and does what legal Twitter does, which is, hold on. Wait 1 second. Okay. Legal Twitter comes out and does, you know, whatever it is that that legal Twitter does. Oh, you know, there was no way that this was going to happen. He doesn't have a good case. The whatchamacallit didn't want to testify. You know, all we have is Joel Greenberg's word and he's a scumbag, whatever. So, you know, none of the real lawyers that are on Twitter were surprised by this. And I guess it was, you know, it wasn't a surprise. And if you go back and think about it, the only reason that we know about this is because it came out in the news report from, you know, God knows what the sourcing was on the news report. For all we know, that was planted in the news report to get us all to be more pissed off at the DOJ than we already are, right? I mean, I don't think we knew that this was happening, except that you know, from the news reports that we read, which are probably sourced by the same 1 or 2 people, would be my guess. But you know, the problem here, it isn't the DOJ isn't indicting him for this particular crime. The problem is that, you know, he's committed crimes before. Yeah, Matt Gaetz burst into the skiff. Remember that? He did that. It was kind of like a microcosm J6 kind of thing. These people burst into a place where they weren't allowed to be, almost to test what would happen. And what happened was nothing. They let them in. There was zero consequences for them breaking the law. And, yeah. And nothing happened. So, one of the through lines of the last 7 years of covering this is that when nothing happens, when people get, break the law or are in violation of the law, and it appears that the powers that be just look the other way, they're just going to keep breaking bigger and bigger laws. We saw that with Trump. We saw it with Jared Kushner. And I fear that with Matt Gaetz, it's going to be the same thing. Like, I don't know. Now, what he can do is he can say, I've been vindicated. This was all bullshit. I'm going to run for higher office now. And his supporters will just say the same thing. So if he was guilty, they'll say, it's what I call the Semyon Mogilevich defense, which is if he was guilty, if I'm guilty, why don't I get indicted? And that's it. And we so on a very specific level, yeah, sure, we're not surprised that he didn't go after Matt Gaetz on, the DOJ decided not to indict him. But on a big picture level, what we see is a large picture of, the DOJ sitting on its hands or perceiving to sit on its hands and not having any spine to go after the bad guys. I mean, there's a lot of talk, and this is something LB has said, there's a lot of talk about protecting the institutions, but like the way to protect the institution of the Department of Justice is to go get the bad guys. It doesn't matter if they were the president or whatever. If they broke the law in this way, they have to be held to account. And if they aren't, it's not, we're not living in a society of laws anymore. We're living in an oligarchy, which is, I get what they want and all that kind of stuff. So, that's it. So that's what I got about Matt Gaetz. I don't think I went the full 8 minutes. This is going to be a short show. Actually, it's not, because we're going to keep our guests on and have them entertain us with their knowledge. But before we do that, as we know, between after the first two segments, we have karaoke, which Chunk has done a bang up job on the song that I wrote like months ago, and decided to wait because I was like, oh no, something might happen. Yeah, right. Okay. Crooked SCOTUS, crooked POTUS, crooked Giuliani too, on a mission for sedition. MAGA tried to stage a coup. Merrick Garland, Merrick Garland, Merrick Garland, is it time? An indictment for incitement, charge the traitors with a crime. Trump is gloating and showboating, there for all the world to see. Flynn and Bannon, Aileen Cannon, Roger Stone is walking free. Merrick Garland, Merrick Garland, Merrick Garland, it's a crime. But the AG is so cagey, hope Jack Smith keeps better time. Oh, Chunk, the eye roll is so good. So good. I love that. Yeah, so I wrote that. I had to change the last word to include Jack Smith because I wrote that long before Jack Smith. And I was like, I better not run this. With my luck, I'll run it. And then, somebody will indict somebody. But I figured, what the heck? The chances are slim that anything is going to happen today. And if I'm wrong, then I'm happily, eat crow on that. So, okay. I've been talking by myself for long enough. Our first guest is the author of a terrific and terrifying book called American Fascism, and one of my favorite Twitter follows, Brynn Tannehill. How are you?
Good. How about you?
I am fine. Thank you for joining us tonight. I know you have. Can I tell everybody what you've been up to, or do you want to keep that a secret?
No, sure. Tell whatever I've been up to. I've got my fingers in so many pots.
I'm talking about tonight with with the activity that you're taking a quick break from.
Oh, yeah, I have a Dungeons and Dragons group on Friday nights.
Yeah. So I want to thank the Dungeons and Dragons group for letting you hit pause. What character do you have? What character do you play?
So I play Lore Bard, who has a level in Rogue. That in the story is that she grew up in the streets and she was sneaking her way into the library of the College of Bards, and she kept stealing the books, but she'd read them before she fenced them, and eventually she got caught, and they found out that she had a near eidetic memory, and so they decided it was safer to bring her into the fold than to continue to let her run around with the knowledge she gained. So then she's kind of quirky, doesn't have, not particularly tough, but is kind of an expert in everything because she spent most of her life enmeshed in books in a library.
What is her alignment?
Mostly somewhere between lawful and neutral good.
Okay.
But she's a little bit blunt. She tends to have a little bit blunt.
Okay.
A little bit blunt.
Yeah, I played a couple of years ago with a group up here, and it was a lot of fun, even though I could never remember the rules because I remembered the rules from when I played Dungeons and Dragons like in third grade, and any change I sort of don't recognize. I feel like it's some new dungeons. I know these newfangled, like there's a warlock now and a tiefling, and I don't know what these things are.
So the cool thing is that a good dungeon master, the way they approach it is, I go to you, the player, and say, what do you want to do? Here's the situation. What do you want to do? And I will and then you'll tell me what you want to do. And you can even act it out. And I'll tell you, okay, roll these dice, roll this, give me a history check. Give me an attack roll, spell attack roll. And it's all on the character sheet. And that's, my goal is to make whatever you imagine happen within the game framework. So.
That's fun. It's fun when it's done right. When you have a good dungeon master, it's good. We had a great dungeon master. He also had a really sonorous, lovely. I mean, he's a singer in real life. He's a musician. So he would open the time by reviewing what we did last time, and it was always late at night, and I was tired, and it was like he was reading a bedtime story. It was very nice. Yeah. So okay, enough Dungeons and Dragons. Although it's nice to go backwards in time instead of forwards in time with all these UFOs. Now you were on my podcast, and which was I learned a lot from you there and from your book. And one of the thoughts that I can't kind of get out of my head is something that you said, which is that the future of the United States is either going to be Hungary or it's going to be Yugoslavia. I mean, I can't stop thinking about this. So for the benefit of people watching who don't know what that means, can you just fill them in on these ideas?
So if it goes down the route of Hungary, it ends up being a one-party state that is absolute, where there's functionally no rights for women. There's functionally, and LGBT people are functionally forced into the closet, have no rights, can't get married, trans people can't get medical care, have no protections, are subject to violence and no police protection. Elections can't change things because they've been so badly, the field has been so badly tilted in favor of a single party. And that's kind of what the vision that Ron DeSantis has for America. And if he wins the election and has a House and Senate that are Republican controlled, which they probably will be, he's going to be able to do that. Now, the only thing that will stop him is if he goes too far and blue states say, no, we're not dissolving, LGBT marriages. We're not firing all of the transgender members of our National Guard. We're not banning abortion. We're not letting you arrest our doctors who provide health care to women and trans people. No, we cease to recognize federal authority in these matters, right? And that's the Yugoslavia option, where we balkanize and you end up with a, Republic of New England, Commonwealth of New England and Republic of Cascadia and Jesus Land, Trumpistan in the South, right?
DeSantistan is what I like to call it. Yeah, this is all terrifying. I mean, do you see, like, is there anything hopeful that you've seen lately, or do you think we're just doomed to one of these alternatives?
So the only really hopeful thing I see is there's one scenario that's plausible that I've gamed out. I've talked with other people who've been involved on the Hill for a very long time, are well connected. And the scenario is that Ron DeSantis narrowly wins the presidential nomination from the Republican Party, but it's really narrow, right? Trump claims fraud, right? And he will. And Trump launches his own third party to try and run. And he claims that there was, fraud in the swamp, and the Republican National Committee undermined him, and McConnell, and he will lean into everybody that doesn't trust the Republican Party to represent real Republicans and peel them away. And the numbers suggest that he's going to peel away between 22 to 28% of the Republican base, right? And even if he only peels away 10 to 15%, that makes it really, really dicey for DeSantis to beat Biden, even though in a head-to-head matchup, DeSantis probably whomps Biden in a runaway 350 electoral college votes level of whomping.
Oh, you think so? Historically, it's so hard for popular incumbents to lose. And I get that, they're trying their best to make him seem unpopular, but
so you're relying on old patterns.
Yeah.
Those patterns don't apply anymore. What we've seen is that literally nothing a candidate does moves their poll numbers very much, right? Consider Roy Moore in Alabama, right?
Yeah.
Consider that the difference between Hillary and Biden in terms of popular vote margin, Hillary was 2.5% win and Biden was like 4.3, right? It was a 1.8% of the voting population changed their mind about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Compared to Hillary. And so the idea that there's this massive swing voters out there who are suddenly going to wake up and realize, oh no, Ron DeSantis is a fascist. Oh no, right? Or oh gosh, he's got no charisma. Isn't going to happen. They're going to be like, I'm voting straight ticket, no matter what.
I was thinking about the Hungary thing in particular, and it seems to me that in some of these states like Texas and Florida, they effectively already are little mini Orbans. I mean, Greg Abbott is a mini Orban in Texas, and DeSantis is a mini Orban in Florida, and Tate Reeves is a mini Orban in Mississippi. And on it goes, where these governors are trying to do these horrible fascistic things. And in Texas, it certainly seems like nothing that they can do is going to get them voted out, because they are so good at suppressing the vote in that state. Does that make sense, or am I off base there?
Well, it's not just suppression, but it's a matter of party loyalty and a belief that, well, yes, the town of Palestine, Ohio, is no longer exists because of decades of underinvestment by Republicans in our infrastructure. We're going to keep voting for DeWine, right? That there will always be a scapegoat. And I could talk about that a little bit more, because we're now seeing very clearly what the number one Republican talking point priority is going to be in the 2024 election. And it's a little bit too, if you're familiar with the Third Reich, it should make you nervous.
Yeah, no, well, that's the next question. And, there's Nazis all over the place now. There's Nazis in Ohio with that homeschooling system. Elon Musk has led all the Nazis back onto Twitter. There just seems to be like a lot of Nazis, to the point where I don't know, were there always this many Nazis, or is there actually a spike in Nazis now? And why? Just social media? I mean, I don't understand it.
So a lot of people have been radicalized. We saw that with the January 6th insurrection. Is the Republicans and Republican media like Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, what's his name, Bill O'Reilly. They spent decades radicalizing the Republican base, and now you have Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh and Crowder, right, who are just out there and violent and scary and they've moved on from dog whistles to these classes of people should not exist in a good and just America. In order for America to be great again, these people must go. They must be rooted out. They must be driven underground, or they must be driven out.
Yeah. I mean, one of the most vulnerable group in the country, I think by far, is the trans community. There's so many, these horrifying bills that they're passing in these states now, which again, this is just straight up Nazi shit where you pick a group, you demonize the group, and what you just said, try to, make it so that the group does not exist. What can people do to help with that? Like people that want to be allies, what can we do?
Well, you can call your state legislators who are going to be voting on these things, particularly if they're Republicans, see if you can pry them away. You can contribute to GoFundMe's for trans people who, especially parents of trans youth who are fleeing these states. There's nothing out there. There's no fund to get people out, right? You can, obviously be politically engaged, but the thing that I tell people is that when the time comes, when the question of what path do we go down, if you had ever asked yourself what would I do if it was 1934, what would I do? Well, you're gonna have to you may have to make choices that put you yourself at risk, right? Or you may have to accept what would be considered unthinkable, which is if there is going to be a safe place for trans people to live in the United States needs to end. That blue states, that your blue state needs to, you need to let your Democratic politicians know that unless they tell the federal government to piss off, that we are not going to comply with your order to hand these people over or to oppress these people. That basically you're not going to vote for them. You will find politicians who will defy a tyrannical federal government. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's what we're going to have to start doing. Okay. We have another topic. So I'm going to start the timer for this one because this is a fun one. We want to talk about something kind of uplifting here. And then we'll have our next guest on because he's waiting in the room there. We might even bring him in to talk about this in the middle. Okay. Now, you were an aviator, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So there's all these unidentified flying objects that governments are shooting down. So what's up with it? I have no idea. What are your thoughts?
That's a long and complicated question. I'll give you the 60-second spiel, right?
Okay.
Which is that the Chinese balloon spying program has been going on for years. There's been overflights of Hawaii and even one over the U.S. prior to this. A lot of these overflights we didn't pick up at the time. We've also noticed a massive upsurge in unidentified anomalous phenomena, formerly known as UFOs. It's my opinion that a lot of these were balloons and that the report released by Congress or released to Congress in January backs that up, saying that of the 510 cataloged items, 166 could be categorized as balloons, which was the largest of any category that they came up with. And finally, now that we know that they're up there, we've been resetting the radar parameters for NORAD and making it so that they detect smaller, slower, higher things that wouldn't have been considered targets before. And we're discovering, hey, there's lots of things up there. With the 3 that we shot down, it's looking like a lot of the things that are up there that we don't know about are completely unregulated hobbyist balloons that can go anywhere from 20,000 feet to 90,000 feet. If they're in the band between 20 and 45,000 feet, they can pose a hazard to air navigation, but the FAA really doesn't regulate them much.
Okay. So they're probably not like Mars attacks right now. We're probably okay.
No, you're shooting down the local high school's weather club experiment.
Someone's going to get an F because of this. It's a terrible thing. There's an archaeologist from Kansas University that I follow on Twitter, and he's like, the astronomers haven't. If the UFOs came from space, the astronomers would see them, and astronomers have not seen them. So I feel like that's probably solid. My wife is very terrified of UFOs and alien invasion and stuff. So whenever I have like people that say no, it makes her feel better, which is
well, if it makes you feel any better, I think that the Great Filter is way more likely than alien life. So
wait, what is this? The Great what?
Great Filter. It's various explanations for why we don't see intelligent life in the universe. And one of the answers is we don't see it because it doesn't survive for very long, because it uses up a planet's resources before it can achieve anything resembling faster than light travel. And then the species, having used up its resources, rapidly goes extinct.
Oh, okay. That even puts on like a sunshiny thing about how we're ruining the planet. It almost makes it seem like we're super smart by doing that. Okay, that's good. Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. This has been terrific. Thank you so much for joining. Well, are you the dungeon master tonight?
No, I'm a player tonight. I DM on Thursdays and sometimes Sundays.
Okay. This has been great. I don't want to keep you too long, but thank you so much for joining us tonight. As always, a treasure trove of information. So thank you so much.
You're absolutely welcome. You have a good evening.
Okay, you too. Thanks, Brynn. Brynn Tannehill, everybody. Okay, now guest number 2. Let me see. Wait, I gotta change my my sheet here so I get the title of the book right, even though I know what it is. He is the author of Piety and Power, Mike Pence, and the Taking of the White House from Yahoo News. Tom LoBianco, how you doing, man?
Hey, what's up, dude?
It's good to see you.
How's it going?
I'm fine. Last time you were on the show, you were in the boxing ring, and that was pretty cool. Yeah, are you still doing that?
Oh, hell yeah. You kidding me? That's the only way I survived this shit.
How many years have you spent covering Mike Pence now?
12.
Oh my God. Again, I said it before, I'll say it again. I don't know what you did in your past life, but
I know this is like, it's like a karmic hell. It's like, like, I mean, like, even stuff that's like supposed to be infinitely interesting, like, wow, you got classified documents, man, that is scandalous.
yeah.
And it's like, yeah, there's like 1 or 2. Like, I called the FBI first. It's like, I followed the Joe Biden playbook. I'm like, okay.
Is he still
man.
like your primary focus, or are you just kind of like, when something happens with him, they give you a call? Like, how does this work now?
He's like Bob's big boy. He never really went away.
So
yeah.
I've got a bunch of Pence questions, but before we get into that, let's talk about aliens. Not that there's any real difference.
That was cool,
what do you
man.
make of all this UFO stuff?
What is it? The Great Filter?
I never heard of that. That was
me
cool.
neither, man. I know. Like, I'm still catching up on like new sci-fi. I feel like just covering politics has made me a cultural idiot. Even as politics continues to sink into culture more than ideology.
Right.
It's like, I don't have updated. I mean, what? Not the Event Horizon. What's the other one? The Singularity. When yeah. I mean, and here's the thing: like, technology is outpacing sci-fi. I was reading that the Kevin Roose thing with this chat with the Chat GPT, where it's like,
we were talking about that before.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, dude, like, why are we not consulting James Cameron right now? I don't get it. Like,
it feels weird. Like there's there were articles about these chat. I get the Bing one and the other one mixed up, but where the thing is actually questioning its existence and wondering why it's alive. And someone tweeted, I can't remember who it was, like, this is literally the inflection point in every sci-fi movie about AI ever made, and we've already hit it. you know?
Exactly. I mean, like,
No.
I'm just like trying to figure out, like, you know, how am I going to lob a proton grenade at like the cybernetic, you know, army that's going to be storming us, and not in 10 years, more like 10 minutes, the way the speed of the technology is going. So it's like, whatevs, you know, this helps.
Amen. What are you drinking?
This is Le Fat Bastard.
Okay.
Cabernet.
Yeah,
Quality.
a fine French wine. That's see, I made a French pun for the thing. Qu'en pense, which means what is Pence thinking? I think that's what it means. Marie Cast, did I screw this up, my French? I hope I did Google Translate let me down. I don't know. I want to do a Ponce Pence pun. Ponce Pence pun.
Dude, I gotta tell you, man, I was Julie Mason said this once, and it was so good and so accurate. You know, when his book came out and I read it, and he had a lot of new stuff in there. And if you're like a Pence, you know, academician or whatever, like, it was very fascinating. It was really interesting. But he didn't really offer up that much. Certainly not on himself. I mean, there was really a lot of interesting stuff. His relationship with his father, I thought that was fascinating. That's the first time I've heard him talk extensively about that. And, you know, that's the kind of stuff that, you know, I wish at least that we would hear from more. I mean, make him a three-dimensional human being as opposed to this two-dimensional political cardboard cutout.
Yeah.
And I just wish that we would see more of that. But, you know, Julie Mason had this quote. She quoted Fitzgerald. Is like the meanest, fiercest guardian, the fiercest gatekeeper stands at the gates to nothing.
Ooh, I like that. That's
Yeah.
really good. Yeah, that just gave me chills a little. Okay, I like it.
Totally encapsulates it. We keep on looking for more, and it's like the Fed searching his house for classified documents. It's not really anything there.
He had you know, he had a couple. Is it a thing where just everybody has so many damn documents that just you don't realize it, and it's like under the trash, and it's about something that isn't even really important anymore? Is that probably why this is happening?
I mean, how did we not know that Biden had a think tank at UPenn? Like, really? I mean, now we do. It's part of history. It's going to be part of the 24 campaign. Maybe they'll have a 17-hour marathon hearing on the Hill for it. You know, and I guarantee you, this is Pence is actually really good at this. And I was talking with one of his guys about this a couple weeks ago. His ability to like insert himself into news cycles,
Yeah.
whether intentional or not, you know, that might be God's plan.
Or Karen's, yeah.
Or whichever deity you pray to. And it's not sacrilegious because everybody prayed to Trump.
Right. It's true. Fatted calf, man.
You know, what was that? What was that guy? There's that dude that brought the the golden Trump statue to CPAC a couple years ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and I was talking with him. I was talking with the artist was really hilarious. This guy was like living in Mexico, just across the line from San Diego, Tijuana or somewhere down there. And he was really fascinating. I actually asked him, I was like, it's like weird that like I'm trying to build a wall and like, but you're living on the other side of it. And he's like, yeah, man, it's all good. And I was like, he was like a surfer dude. It was really fascinating. But the guy that was pushing it was one of these election denier people that like made like, you know, like sort of that whole like the political online influencer grift operation that Trump spun off, you know, in a million different directions. And I asked him, I was like, hey man, like you have a golden statue. I mean, that is literally idolatry. And he's like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, do you? I mean, maybe like who's the better Christian here? Let's have a Christian off, you know? Like, I mean, I guarantee. I mean, like seriously, like if we're gonna do this, let's freaking do it. You know? I mean, I'll put my very limited, you know, understanding, you know, verse up against yours, bud. I mean, I'm not the one who brought a golden idol of the president.
Yeah, that seems like it's pretty bad across the board. Like you don't need to have a real, doctorate level understanding of scripture to get that that's maybe
Right.
not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It's the first commandment, no gods before me, right?
Right.
I
Yeah,
think that's the
man.
first one,
Well, maybe in your world, but of course you're not a prophet.
Says who? So I want to ask you about the subpoena stuff with Pence, because now he got subpoenaed by Jack Smith, and which makes perfect sense because he knows what happened on J6 and he knows where he was and he knows all the stuff.
Yeah.
And he is refusing to do the subpoena, and there's some bullshit reason because he says he's the president of the Senate that day.
Oh, yeah, I know the separation of powers argument, right? That was it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting to us nerds, but like, was anybody going to parse that? I thought it was a little too cute by a half. It's like, trying to split the atom on this thing. It's like, make a constitutional argument, but it's not the same constitutional argument that Trump is making. So therefore it's not a Trump argument. Therefore he has standing, but he is also past Trump. It's like, no normal voter thinks that way. They're not going to, nobody in New Hampshire is going to be like, I remember when Mike Pence, he brought up the separation of powers argument. That was really sharp, guy. And I'm like, the only thing that makes sense about that to me, I was out drinks last night with one of my Republican sources, and he made this point because we were talking about just this, and he said, nah, man. He's like, look, it's not about winning or losing or anything. It's just about fighting. It's about fighting and being able to say that you fought. And there's kind of, it's actually, you kind of see that to a degree in Pence's book. I saw it in Nikki Haley. It's sort of, if you guys, for your listeners, read Matthew Continetti if you want to understand the right. Like, you don't have to agree with him, but I put Continetti in that world of like Jonathan V. Last. Like there are definitely partisans and people who work on the conservative media and liberal media, but they're amazing reporters and they have the goods. Like if you strip away any kind of like bias you might see in there, at the end of the day, there's still meat to what they're talking about. And Continetti is he's just one of the best historians at the moment of this, where we are with the current right. And he made a really good point a while ago about Trump is part of the Republican fabric. We only have two major parties that get elected to the White House. Despite Kirsten Sinema, who appears to be on her way to losing in 24 or whenever she's up.
7% approval rating. Yeah.
Yeah. Even Bernie Sanders caucuses with the Democrats. Same thing for Angus King, but look, the Republican Party kind of absorbed Trump. This is what Continetti was saying. And you can totally see that. It's like you absorb it and you make it your own. Ron DeSantis is like, I'm going to beat the crap out of Mickey Mouse. And Rex Hupke writes a column being like, well, you didn't actually beat the crap out of him. And we're going to have a lot of that. That's going to be the test with DeSantis. Will his record stand up? I mean, that's one of the things that a lot of these guys when Mitch Daniels was doing this, because I covered the last 2 years of his term as governor, he was really good at actually having the goods ready when he would make these arguments. Now, the flip side of that, I would say, is that a lot of people, he presented himself very well as a policy technocrat guy. But the reason he was able to do that was because he was infinitely better at the politics. His messaging, his ability to see where to thread certain needles, how to time things, his tactile sense of political leadership was amazing, and I imagine still is amazing. The guy is politically brilliant. But you haven't seen that really with DeSantis because he hasn't been tested. He's
Yeah.
not, he hasn't been, raked across the coals. Nobody down in Florida is really doing that to him right now. And I know there's kind of this idea that like, oh, he'll go on the debate stage with Trump and Trump's going to be like, oh, I got a new nickname. I don't know why people still use the term nickname. Like if I called you fat ass Greg Olear, is that like your new nickname or is it an insult? It's a fucking, I'm sorry, pardon my French, it's a fucking insult. Okay, like it's just an insult. Let's
Pronounce
just
my
call it what it
last
is.
name wrong. It's terrible.
Right? Like I don't get this. Like, how are we still anyway? Sorry.
Well, like you said, Trump is now a fabric of the Republican Party, and that's what it's become. This is what your point that you made about the fighting is really interesting, I think, because it didn't make sense to me what Pence gains by not doing the subpoena. Because if he came in and just told the truth, he's going to emerge as a hero. He's already, that was like the 20 minutes of his life that he was heroic, period. That's the only time, other than the story about when he was in the basement with Trump, which you told me on the podcast.
Oh, yeah, man.
It was last time, yeah, where he kind of turned the tables on Trump. Other than that, those are the only two moments of actual courage that and heroism and valor that he's ever had in his whole life. So, and he's was a coward for all of the Trump administration, was brave for 20 minutes, and now is a coward again. And Americans like people that aren't cowards. They like their leaders not to be cowards. I think that maybe that's part of the insulting and the kind of braggadocio that's popular on the right, is that people mistake that kind of thing for valor and like, toughness or whatever. Because the alternative is a sort of very careful, boring, afraid to ruffle any feathers. People hate that shit. And that's what Pence is,
Yeah, man. He reminds me, like, you ever Monty Python? I think it's The Meaning of Life. It's like, Arthur Puget, are you a man or a mouse? I'm a man. It's like, all right, man.
Pence has a nicer voice than that, though. I'm a man.
He does.
He does. He has great pipes. That guy. So,
he does, man.
Is he running? I mean, he's definitely running, right? That's what we think. He hasn't announced yet.
The thing with them. Sorry, I'm in the kitchen making a quality dinner for myself of spinach dip, which is awesome. I freaking love good spinach dip. Extra chestnuts, definitely.
Okay.
Extra crunchy, extra chestnuts, the best. It seems that way. And if you look at like the people that we're talking about right now that are, I mean, Nikki Haley got like all of this play. I was shocked by this, for being a boring person, relatively speaking, a bless your heart politician, as opposed to I'll kill somebody on Fifth Avenue politician.
Yeah.
It's getting play. But these guys, the formers, Pence, Pompeo, Haley, they all have to do this now. You don't have standing anymore in 28. Somebody like Tim Scott can run now and set up another run in 28. He's young enough. I am not going to say the word age and Nikki Haley in the same sentence for all the reasons. But for the rest of them, Josh Hawley, do you hear Josh Hawley talked about as a 24 contender anymore? No. Like, he just, like, they all fell by the wayside.
I think actually the J6 committee destroyed him. That all the opponent has to do is show that clip of him running away like a scared child on loop forever.
That was a weird run. I'm sorry. Maybe I don't run enough. I don't know. Anyway, I'm not going to criticize.
You can. Maybe it was the Florsheim's he was wearing. I don't know. He was hauling ass because he was terrified, and he was like, "I must run from this danger and go back to the safety of my office and continue writing my book about manliness." Yeah, but
can I just say something, man? That Matt Walsh tweet about like every man wants a woman who will be there ready for at home for dinner with him. I'm like, I don't know. Like, what do you do with this? Like, this is like you've forced 50% of the electorate into this rubric. What do they feel about that?
Yeah.
It's like if the goalposts are that or testicle tanning. You know?
Yeah. Well, I don't knock it till you try it. I think it's funny that you're quoting the Matt Walsh. You need a woman to cook you while you're making spinach dip while on the show. I think that's funny.
Right, exactly. Because one of us is clearly too effeminate, right?
It's really all nuts. I don't know. So what's the deal with Karen Pence? Like, is she? Because I remember, even when he ran the first time, she didn't want him to run. She wasn't crazy about it, and he obviously is deferential to her. I think people joke about it maybe more than it actually exists. But is she like, okay with this? Is she? If she says no, is he going to stop? Like, what's your take on that?
I don't really have a good. I will be the first to say, I don't have a very good sense of her thinking at the moment, and that is, boy, I'll tell you, man. When I used to talk to a lot of the Trump people about Pence, that's they would always say this too. She is a really tough nut to crack, and that's on purpose.
Yeah.
Those two, they work in tandem. More than there's always kind of that dynamic. I think of like Marlon Stutzman, who's the former congressman from Fort Wayne. The old joke in Indiana was that his wife Christy Stutzman was the one actually running the campaign, running the race, running the congressman. And that's an old trope, and there's a lot of truth to it. That's not surprising. I mean, that's the negative or negative, whatever disparaging way to put it. The flip side of that is behind every strong man is a strong woman. Like however you want to coin that, like. And with our current vice president, behind every strong woman is a strong second gentleman, the second gentleman.
Yep.
So that's and that's good, right? You have a good relationship, a good good connection, but man, they are just impossible to crack. And I don't know. I don't have a very good sense at the moment where Karen Pence's thinking is. On this. Now the flip side of that is that I will say with Pence, as with any politician, but especially with Pence, you just watch the actions. He's in Iowa this week.
Okay.
He counter programmed the Haley launch with his own Iowa tour. He kind of lets it roll out there. What was fascinating was look at the subpoena story comes out, and that's definitively bad for him because that puts him back in January 6th. It rewinds him backwards, and it reminds people.
Rewinds it back to the most heroic moment of his life. Terrible thing for him. Yeah.
It's like what's so crazy about this, and I really get the sense like I see this when I talk with other parents at the playground, civilians, so to say, as Omar from The Wire would say, non-combatants. I just do my checks, and they're not into politics right now. And I think that's why you see, like, I literally listened to this interview with like Andrew Sullivan was interviewing Matt Taibbi, and like Sullivan is like, he's like, oh, those of us who are MSM adjacent, renegade, but also MSM. I'm like, wait a minute, you want the ad dollars with none of the responsibility? Is that what's going on here? Substack me once, substack me twice. Like, I mean, come on. It's like, I'm like, which is not, look, who wouldn't want that, right? If you're a content creator, it's like what my kid talks about. It's like, oh, wait, but I got to be responsible for this. I'm like, yeah. So sorry. It's just the way it is. Because otherwise shit gets really screwed up. Like, like a violent attack on the Capitol, an attempt to overthrow the government. Just little things.
I think, you're hitting on something about not being into politics now. And people are talking about it in the comments as well. I think, after all these years of Trump and the constant vigilance, it's almost like, it's Nightmare on Elm Street. It's Nightmare on Elm Street, where if you fall asleep, the monster's going to come. It's been a long time of this, and I think people have to tune it out, especially now.
Yes.
Like, where everyone, not everyone, but many people are like, okay, Biden's there. I can exhale for a year, and people are tired of the fighting, and they're probably tired of the same cast of characters. Like, Mike Pence. People are tired of, I don't know, and him and whatever he's doing, pre-announcing now. It's so far removed. It's a year and a half. It's I get why no one cares is my point. So you mentioned the guy, Matthew Continente. Can you spell the name? Because people were asking about that.
Oh yeah, sure. Matthew, I am totally going to screw up his last name, and I feel terrible as a fellow Paisan. It's Matthew, regular spelling, 2 T's, Matthew, Continente, Continetti.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I wrote down.
Yeah.
That's what people were saying. I just wanted to confirm. So okay, we'll check that out. So okay, so we're coming up on the hour, and you have spinach dip to eat. So I want to. Where can people find you? You're at Yahoo now. News.
Yeah.
Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, Yahoo News. Find me on Yahoo. I tweet not as much as I used to, but I'm on Twitter. Hit me on the DMs. Say, hey, Stacy, hit me up earlier. I got to write back to her.
Yeah.
Stacy. I got to shoot her back a note. She was saying something about Fox News. But yeah, find me on Twitter. Hit me on the DMs. You can get me on the emails really easy. Tom LoBianco @gmail.com. Can I say something? Like, I know a lot of reporters, like, we're always kind of like, we have a chip on our shoulder. Like, people send me death threats, which is very, sadly, this is normal in this environment. And the Elon Musk stuff has ticked it back up again. But I get a lot of really nice notes. And I want to say thanks to the people who, like, somebody wrote to me the other day and they're like, hey, man, it's January 6th, 21, not January 6th, 20. I was like, dude, thank you. That's awesome. Like, that rocks. Like, thank you. That is so cool. Like,
I rely on people to tell me when I do typos. I'm always afraid I'm going to mess up the date. I'm not afraid about the really complicated stuff. It's some dumb thing like that. Like, I'll write January 6th, 2020 and be like, oh, fuck. Like, I was trying to do, I'm like, when does the pandemic was in 2020? It's 3 years, right? And I kept like 23 minus 20 is 3. Like, I kept doing the math over and over because I part of me couldn't believe it, and I the other day I said 1923, by the way, like because I'm still not used to the 20 before. That's where my brain is. So
yeah, dude. Yes, I know, man.
Yeah,
these kids,
I don't know.
These kids
I don't know. I'm getting
90s.
old. I'm getting old. I'm a lot older than you. You've got time to go. Your brain will also atrophy. I assure you. This is what happens. Anyway, Tom LoBianco, Piety and Power. Great to see you as always. Have a good rest of your night,
Good
man.
seeing you, man. Awesome. Okay. Thanks, Greg.
Take care. All right, everybody. That was great. What fun. We had two great guests. I want to bring on real quick at the end because we have a few minutes. Is it okay? Are you listening? Yeah, he's okay. All right, let's bring in Donnie, Mr. Chunk. How are you? You're on mute is where you are. There you are. How's it going?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are
you? All right. How are you?
That was a great little movie thing that you made. It was really
well. Thank you.
Animation was really
a great little song.
I watched it like 4 times and I guffawed at the eye roll. It was really good.
It's a little creepy to do that when you have to take apart their eyelids and stuff. Just FYI.
How did you come up with that idea with the concept of it? Because it took me a while to figure out that it is sort of a clock winding around. Yeah.
It was so the finish line the last line of the song, you actually had better time, maybe Jack can keep better time. And then it just clicked right then and there.
Yeah, so, that was great. And you turn this shit around so fast. It's really it's really impressive.
That becomes really easy when I don't have to animate little characters or anything like that. If it's just simple movements around a circle, piece of cake.
Okay, we'll acknowledge that for last time. So now what do you think about the UFOs?
Well, I like what Brynn said because I did hear that on NPR today that they are calibrating their detection now so that they can actually because they weren't calibrated to test or actually find those objects before. So now I want to know what other things are they going to find. Like, is it just going to detect birds? I'm completely ignorant on this, but anyway, I'd be intrigued to know what else comes out of that. But besides that, I've just been, I think we do need aliens. Maybe somebody needs to come and fix us.
Birds aren't real.
As long as they're
Because
not
I read that.
fascist. Oh, I heard that too. My
Yeah.
kids tell me that.
Yeah, they're not real.
It's
They're
like
just
a TikTok thing or something.
I mean,
Oh,
how
well.
can something fly? Come on.
I mean, make noise.
I agree. I think, the aliens come, maybe they can show us a thing or two about, I don't know, something. On the other hand, maybe they'll just enslave us and it'll be like the Matrix and awful.
We'll just be their test subjects and for fun, kick us around. But I think we've had enough time to figure things out, and we keep fucking up.
It was a good run. We had
a
nice
good
run. There were some highlights,
Yeah, we had some good times.
Yeah. Some
Super Bowl.
Nice build. Yeah, Super Bowl was good. Yeah. Mahomes didn't do like crazy Mahomes things. He just, I guess, the run on the busted ankle.
Yeah, I don't think he could. That's okay. Yeah, that was a fun game. I'm much more happy if he's serviceable and he can throw the ball and no interceptions. God, he didn't get sacked.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Maybe the aliens came and gave,
I think he is
his
one.
ankle. Maybe they fixed his ankle.
He has to be one.
If anybody is, yeah. Oh,
that's why it wasn't so magic, because he realized that all the people are coming from his home planet and he has to pretend to be human again. So I think that's it.
Yeah.
Conspiracy theory.
Somebody tweeted, and I can't remember who it was, that the aliens are just here to see Rihanna at the halftime show. Also, that was pretty cool too. Down kind of thing. I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. I couldn't be paid enough to do that.
Yeah, she was nothing. For anybody that wasn't watching, she was on this platform that was probably, I don't know, maybe as big as like a kitchen, like a galley kitchen in a New York apartment, and or a small bedroom in a Manhattan apartment, and no walls around it at all. And the platform was very, very high in the air. I don't know how high,
like 80, maybe 60 to 80 feet.
Yeah. So if she fell, that's like window cancer in Russia there. And and there was one flimsy microphone, and she's pregnant. So presumably her balance isn't as exactly great as it would be if she weren't. And it was really something. She just didn't look. She didn't look like she gave a shit at all. Like she's completely fearless.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when they pulled back and you looked at it, it was really cool to watch. Just visually, it was pretty stunning.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful. I mean, the TV I was watching it on actually had it all. So was it red?
Yeah.
Okay. It was completely a different color on the screen we were watching. And so not that really made anything different, but it was a different color. It was like magenta, a bright magenta color. It was that and white, you could tell.
Yeah.
So either that or I got to get my eyes checked.
Yeah, could be. I don't know. I don't think
I love
become colorblind over time. I think you just are.
Yeah.
That's my understanding anyway. So I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, that's all I got, Donnie. Thanks for joining me, and thanks for hanging out in the control room, because I got scared, because I'm like, oh my God, what if something happens and my thing goes off, and like Bryn's talking, and that happened to me on I was on Stuttering John one time, and he flickered out, and I was just there by myself suddenly on a show that was not mine, and I was like, should I do like the Carson dance? I wasn't sure what to do.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Well, I'm glad you depended on me for that. I don't think I could have saved the day.
Well,
because there's that lovely little end broadcast button right up in the corner of the screen that it's killing me seeing that thing, because I swear I'm going to accidentally hit it, and we're not.
You actually have to hit it twice. If you hit it once, it'll say, "Are you sure?" Yeah. Okay. It does have the. It's like it knows.
And that's why I wouldn't have known. So, yep. Yeah. Good. All right.
Yeah. Next time, I'm
going to hit it twice, though.
Anybody trying to hack the show, you have to hit it twice. So anyway, all right, guys. Donnie, thanks for the great animation. Thanks for hanging with me tonight. Thanks everybody for watching. LB will be back next week, presumably, I hope. And we'll all be back. That's what we're going to do. So have a great weekend. Have a good rest of the week, everybody. We will see you next time.
Cheers.